conversation, but this will give us kind of a little bit of an idea of where you guys think of yourself in terms of the different areas. What I want to do now, Sharon or Justine, if you could unmute everybody, we're going to go ahead and start the conversation and really open it up for anybody who wants to share around a number of different things. The first question I have is as it relates to collaboration and partnerships within your community. Have there been, I know you guys have a kind of a strategy for reopening and things of that nature. What partnerships have been created or reinvigorated or whatever that might look like in your community as part of the response to COVID-19? And Amanda, maybe you can start, and if others, I'm not sure if John's on the, yeah, John's there, if some of you guys want to answer to that, but Amanda, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, thank you, Dean. There are definitely a lot of collaboration happening, and I'll just touch on what I'm directly involved in. This morning, we actually held the second Zoom meeting of what we're calling the Lawrence County Recovery Task Force, because it doesn't have another name right this minute. And so there's many of the people that are on this group right now that have been participating in that. And we're really in that discovery phase, where we're gathering information, much like this, so that we can kind of figure out what direction we need to take that task force. So we've been inviting different people, and I've been talking with some one-on-one and bringing them all together. And we have another meeting already scheduled for next week. Once more, just kind of trying to figure out where we all need to collaborate outside of the individual task forces that are happening in particular areas.
Others want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I was part of that meeting this morning, and you know, there's a lot of good work going on, a lot of task forces around the county. But I think with what Amanda's done is bringing those together and actually having all the stakeholders around the table has been really informative to know about the activity that's going on. And, you know, hearing the initial responses from some of the, from the poll, it just goes to tell me that, you know, we need to continue to do a better job about communicating within the county about the things that are going on, because again, the work's being done. It's just, you know, folks just don't know what they don't know. So it's been great to see, you know, Jonathan connect with GP, you know, and just again, just overall collaboration, and knowing who's doing what.
Yeah, I think that's critical, and I think it is good, you know, now, and what we've heard in some of the other counties is very similar. They started kind of working on the issues that were specific to them, whether they were a social service organization or a health organization or economic development or whatever it is. But now, as you know, we've gotten beyond the initial influx of the situation, and we're kind of more into the how do we set the context for the long term. Now is the appropriate time to bring all those together and see how you can work collaboratively. And it sounds like y'all have done that. And then of course, our hope is that we can, like others, serve as a resource as you're looking to move you know, forward in the long term around this. And that leads to my next question, which is, were there any, whether it be local or regional or state resources that were already created that you have utilized to help you during this time frame? You know, what are some of those types of resources that you guys have used to move forward? Other partnerships that maybe you had or that were created around this? Any examples of that?
Dean, it wasn't a new partnership, but when the COVID-19 stuff sort of started on March 13th, we were having a Finally Friday event that night here. We had decent participation, but then immediately on that Monday, our Main Street, South Carolina network got started more vigorously than normal. sharing via Facebook and emails, and we've constantly shared resources between all of our downtown organizations. When one comes up with a poster or a reopening guide or whatever, that's being shared out to the rest of our folks so we can put our logos and information in it. So that's been a huge help for us.
Good. And y'all did a video too, that I recall, right?
We did. We've done a video. We also did some group photos where we put out an inspirational message to all of our downtowns, where each one of our Main Street directors was holding a sign up with a different word on it. And we did all that, got that out. And this Nathan Sin, our mayor, did a couple of videos and has been doing some YouTube updates from the city's perspective too.
Good. How about others like the COGS or the Chamber Coalition or the Municipal Association? You guys been engaged with any of those types of groups?
Dean, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Ernst Seegers. I'm on the COG board in Greenwood, and of course they've been not meeting because of the virus, but they did send out information on compliance with regulations and that kind of thing. So they have been in touch, but we're part of the Savannah Council of Governments out of Greenwood, and they are aware of it and seem to be moving along with it, but certainly not as intense as it's been locally.
Right. Good. Anything else on that, or we'll move on? Aaron,
Just so everybody knows too, Main Street, South Carolina is under the Municipal Association of South Carolina. So it's set up a little differently here in South Carolina than other states. So we've been actively involved with MASC as well.
Okay. And Alicia, did you have a comment?
Oh, no, I didn't. I was just, the ones that we have actually been partnering with is United Way Association of South Carolina, One SC Grant Fund. We've also had a lot of communication with the other local United Ways in the area. Our agencies that we fund, we've had a really tight contact with them, seeing what their needs are. And not only the ones that we fund, but also the nonprofits in the area that we don't currently fund. We have been working with them as far as helping them where is needed.
Good, good. We're going to pivot a little bit and go towards economic development, entrepreneurs, things of that nature. And Aaron, I'll turn it over to you to ask a few questions.
Hey, great, Dean. Thank you very much. And it was very interesting listening to the collaborations that y'all have in Lawrence and the things that you're moving forward on. And it was also interesting to see the poll results. But I'm going to step back to pre-COVID-19 for my first question. And that has to do with the overall health of your small businesses and your entrepreneurs prior to COVID-19. So what would you say was the health of them? Were they, robust, growing, average, below average, in jeopardy? What would y'all say was the health of the businesses?
In downtown Lawrence, I would say the health of our business is pretty robust. And has really stayed that through the COVID-19. We've got some new businesses getting ready to open now. We had several businesses that have worked on some interior and exterior uplifts. And we've got a full building renovation that's just about to completion. So I would say prior to it, we were pretty robust in downtown Lawrence.
Oh, excellent. Very good to hear. Ben, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just share with this group what we shared yesterday in Greenwood. Coming into the disaster, we were really on pace to have, a record year for new business startups, growths and expansions. And if you don't know, our office actually covers all the Gleams counties. So we have been working closely with Amanda and Jonathan. Those guys have been great in helping us spread the word of the resources that we provide to small business owners. But, everything was pointing towards positive momentum up until about March. So I would say I would agree with what Jonathan said, that it was very healthy prior to the disaster.
Good. And then Amanda, do you have any thoughts with your membership?
Yes, I agree with Jonathan and Ben that we were definitely growing, but I believe that the businesses that have been here for many, many years weren't necessarily, they were more average, and we just didn't realize it because a lot of them don't even have Facebook pages. I mean, it's amazing the things that we have learned that we're just like, how is that possible? Like, how are you functioning and you don't have these social medias that is like the way everybody's operating these days? And so I think on the outside, we saw everybody, they were growing because great things were happening in the downtowns. And so I think on the outside, like I said, it definitely was a very positive thing, but this has given us the opportunity to look a little bit deeper into the businesses, and not in a negative way at all. It's just things that could make them even better that we just didn't realize weren't already happening.
Okay, so kind of exposing some of the weaknesses.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. So, how do you think that they will? How quickly do you think your businesses will come out of this? Any or all?
Well, I'll just speak to the clients that I've worked with recently. You know, it's really a mixed bag. It just depends on how prepared they were prior to the disaster. Like Amanda mentioned, everybody's kind of on a different scale. You have some folks that were doing an excellent job with their social media. You know, their cash flow was in a position where they weren't in panic mode when this hit. And then you had others, some startup that just, you know, maybe have not gotten that far in their strategic planning, or, you know, I don't think anybody could have foreseen this type of event, but, you know, I think it's going to be a mixed bag. Some are going to get back to normal quicker, and others are going to struggle.
Okay.
I worry a little bit about our small businesses in the outlying areas. I think Lawrence and Clinton will do fairly well. They've got programs that help them and, you know, and come to their aid. In places like Cross Hill and Mountville and Waterloo, places like that, there are businesses that, you know, that are family run and depend on lake traffic, for example, for, you know, for their livelihood. And I think we talked about that a little bit with our chamber. I hope we can reach out to them and make sure they have got something that can take advantage of some of these things as well. We always had an issue in Lawrence with, you know, we got Lawrence, Clinton, and kind of everybody else, and that's it's better than it was, but it's still a problem. I think that we need to address as we go forward, particularly in these perilous times.
Okay. Dean asked a question yesterday that I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Are there any kind of legacy businesses or old line businesses that are not going to come back?
So far, again, and my perspective is just for downtown Lawrence, but so far we have not had any businesses that have not come back at all. Like Amanda said, we've not lost any permanently. I have probably one or two that I'm a little concerned about. But right now, everything in downtown Lawrence is open back up in some capacity. Some of them didn't close at all. They had to pivot and adjust their business model to go to curbside, which we helped with. But again, most of them have opened back up. Our legacy businesses, like some of our longest running businesses in downtown, are still open. But those are some of the ones like Amanda referenced that we're going to be working with the online social media type stuff because they're just not quite there yet. So.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. So it sounds like Chamber, Main Street, SBDC, maybe the COG are providing resources to the community. Is there anybody else out there who's providing support for your local businesses? Okay, I take silence as a no. Okay, all right, very good then. So if we could y'all have been really, really wonderful in your specifying the social media being one of the challenges that has created a bigger impact for some of your businesses. Were there any other specific challenges that they were meeting or that were confronting them?
Do you mean prior to?
Well, that once COVID-19 hit, and I'll give you an example. So we've heard a lot of folks say that businesses didn't have their books in order. So when it came time for PPP and EIDL, they weren't prepared. And that also kept them from being able to quickly understand where their money was tied up and where they could cut and things like that.
I think that was part of it. We also saw when the PPP information and EIDL stuff started coming out, we had a lot of businesses that were paying employees under the table, and they didn't have employees listed. They may be sole proprietors or whatever, but they weren't actually paying themselves. So then they weren't eligible for a lot of stuff because they couldn't show any employees. So that was probably the bigger issue that we ran into when the PPP and everything kind of started coming out, was making sure the businesses were able to apply where they could. We had some that have told us they were not eligible to apply for anything. They weren't eligible for unemployment. They weren't eligible for PPP or EIDL, but I think that was more of the way their businesses are set up and the way they were keeping their books than anything else.
Okay.
I'll just add, Aaron, if you guys run into any businesses that are still just not sure, or we've heard from some that the banking relationship that they have, the lender that they work with the most, either isn't doing them or isn't accepting their particular type of business. So if y'all hear of that problem, feel free to direct them to me, and I'll try to connect them with a resource that may can help them with that.
Good, Ben, thank you. So the next question is about resources or strategies that your community has used to help small businesses and entrepreneurs. Early on, y'all talked about some of the things that you've done. Were there any other significant programs or resources that you made available that you felt like were impactful?
I can take that one to start off. It goes back to a lot of coordination, working with others. So the Main Street organizations, Clinton and Lawrence, and the Chamber have worked together closely to support the businesses. The Chamber put out first of all, Main Street Lawrence did a survey to the community, the residents here, to kind of gauge their comfort level on going back into the businesses and what they felt like they needed to feel comfortable doing so. And so we took all that information, and then I included it in a Smart Start playbook for the businesses, a guide to help them as they reopen and to help them, their customers feel more comfortable. So we worked together on those type things. And then we've done a couple of workshops. We did like a LinkedIn workshop. And then we've also encouraged our not members only, it has not been a member driven initiative.
Okay.
It's been all Lawrence County businesses as far as the Chamber goes. But Ben Calhoun's been doing workshops, so we've been pushing that information out as well, or the small business group has been doing that. And then Jonathan did a virtual workshop on opening your business back up and kind of went over some of the information that we had compiled. And so there are various things that we're doing.
And then what are y'all doing to educate folks on the social media and that whole digital sales world?
So one of the things that we're going to be working on through Main Street, we were awarded a $10,000 grant through the National Main Street Organization. It's called a Grills Grant, which is being funded through Joe and Margie Grills. They're on the National Trust Board. And we were one of 8 communities across the country that were awarded the grant. And what we're going to do is we're going to use it for what we're going to call a technology audit. So it'll be a multi-phase project. It'll start within the next month or two. It has to be wrapped up by the end of the year. Our goal is to have it completed before the holiday shopping season. Mm-hmm. So we'll do a checklist for the businesses to sort of see where they are with websites, social media, that sort of thing. Then we're going to bring in a marketing person to talk about how important they are, what are the most important aspects for a business. And then we've got some money in that grant that we will set up to have some of the businesses get online, whether that's through website development or e-commerce development, so that we can have that going by Christmas. So that's a grant that our Economic Enhancement Committee is going to be working on here in the next week or two.
That is fabulous.
Amanda, if I could ask, as an outsider, it felt like, you've had the Love Lawrence, is that right? The hashtag?
It's hashtag Love Lawrence County is one.
Love Lawrence, yeah.
Lawrence County.
You've had that for a couple years now, and it felt like as an outsider that kind of gave you an advantage in the sense that once this all hit, y'all kind of already had a marketing campaign that you just kind of ramped up. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. We utilize that Think Local Lawrence County social media accounts that we already had in place. And with the followers that we already had and started sharing all of the posts that we possibly could find to share to that page about what people were doing, how they were adjusting their hours or their services. We've also started a local business buzz video series where we're going out and basically just doing quick interviews with the entrepreneurs in the community, because there's so many, just to let everybody have an inside peek at what's going on in those businesses. A lot of times people don't even realize what all we have to offer in Lawrence County. So yeah, we've definitely capitalized and utilized the Think Local initiative that we already had in place.
Good. Erin, I think you have one more question.
I do. So I'm going to shift to the larger employers and the manufacturers. Were there any specific challenges that were different for the larger employers and manufacturers?
I think I'll take that one.
Okay.
To start off with, I'm with Lawrence County Development Corporation. I'll just share that the largest impact we saw with our manufacturers were primarily from the automotive industry. And as you all know, the automotive industry had already softened prior to the pandemic. So they were already experiencing some declines and softening of their clients and their business. So that is the group that we saw to have the greatest impact for us in Lawrence County. So when you look at our unemployment claims, we're currently at a 14.2 unemployment rate, and approximately 40% of our workforce in Lawrence County is tied to manufacturing and industry. So our numbers are going to be higher than that. I'll share that that 14.2 is through April. The majority of our industries that are automotive connected were going back into operation the first part of May. So we're optimistic that as our May numbers come back out, we'll see that there's a decrease in that unemployment rate. Mainly because two of our largest manufacturing employers were in the automotive sector with pretty much 100% shutdown for a couple of weeks. So we're optimistic to see some increases there. But we did have a lot of success stories in our manufacturing. We've been fortunate that we're diversified with the type of sectors that we do have in Lawrence County. And a number of those saw increases in business and were hiring during the pandemic.
And then I was on a call with Jonathan the other day where he said y'all are continuing to get some inquiries and things of that nature. So it seems like in general that has not totally fallen off the cliff, kind of the way it did in 2008 and 2009. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we actually have a new manufacturer that's come to the county, and they're in a startup mode now. As of right now, we've not learned of any that are going to be in a permanent closure status because of the pandemic. We have had some RFIs come through during this and some site visits. So they are still looking. It is slower than it was a number of months ago, but the activity is still there somewhat. So we're optimistic that as people start to get a better feeling of what's going to happen, they'll start inquiring stronger.
Great. I'm going to shift gears, Erin. Thank you.
Can I add one thing? Real quickly. This is the Lawrence County people primarily. It's more important than ever that we support Lawrence County Development Corporation. That organization was started 15 years ago or so in the depths of an economic downturn. We had to claw our way back from the textile industry and all that sort of thing. I think we're well set for the future to get where we need to be, but we just need to keep that process in place and keep working at it because it has been invaluable to develop this county over the last 10 years.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to shift gears, Erin. Thank you, and move on to infrastructure. The first question has to do really with mobility and access to transportation. We've heard in other communities, because a lot of the folks who were deemed as essential workers were in lower paying jobs, that some of them were already having issues around access to transportation, and that has continued to be kind of a challenge. Here in Lawrence, what is the role? I know you guys don't have public transportation in terms of buses and things of that nature, but has there been any noticeable challenges or increase in challenges as it relates to people getting to jobs during the pandemic because of lack of access to mobility and transportation?
In years past, it's been a terrible problem because we basically don't have any. And I know in employment issues, it was hard for people to get, if they could get a job, they couldn't get to work. And we have issues with hospital access, that sort of thing, over time. This is a big county. It's 50 miles long, 45 miles wide. And there are a lot of rural areas that are completely untouched by this sort of thing. We tried, I was county administrator here for a number of years. We tried over the years a number of things, human service coordination and with our various human service agencies. We ran into problems with that because of federal red tape and issues and that sort of thing. We looked several years ago at a Lawrence-Clinton connection, maybe working out a PC and using the hospital as a base of operations for that, to get people to and from various places. But money was always a problem. And so unless it's changed in the last 3 or 4 years, it's a chronic problem here that we really do need to address.
Any other comments related to anything that's been done? Justin, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, outside of the one private sector transportation resource, and I don't know how his business has been impacted at all. I mean, I've still seen him on the road a little bit, but I really don't know if he's been impacted. So.
Okay. How about one of the things we heard in both Greenwood County and Cherokee County was availability of broadband access to the internet. What has been that impact in Lawrence County, especially in more of your rural areas? Has that been an issue? And have you guys done like some of the other counties where you've had some of the buses go out and serve as hotspots? Alicia, is that something you can talk on?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about that. I just know that there are teachers that have talked about the internet access because they had to do the online schooling, and how that there were a lot of areas in the rural areas where there was not any access to the internet. So that was making it very difficult for them to teach, because the students had to get somewhere to where they could actually connect in order to get their lessons.
Right. Anybody else want to talk to that?
I can speak from personal experience. I live in Lawrence. I've got a niece and a nephew that live on the Newberry County line, way down below Clinton, and they're both home, obviously, from school. They can't connect in a reasonable manner to the internet for the in-home teaching and that sort of thing. And they live 10 miles from Clinton, straight south, and they live on a farm, extremely rural area. And I imagine, I don't know for a fact, but I imagine there's several other people that are in the same situation they're in.
Dean, I don't know any really details, but I do know District 55 here did have some of their buses with Wi-Fi that they positioned around in the district. And then they also used the buses to distribute the lunches here in District 55.
I will say that
D6 did the same. Sorry.
Both districts, yeah. I do get a sense from some of the other communities that that's something that, looking especially at rural access, but just holistically, the role of internet and broadband as a utility, I think is something that will be an opportunity to work collaboratively on moving forward. Amanda, is there anything from the chamber standpoint you guys have talked on related to the broadband?
Not directly within our organization. Whenever we had the call a couple of weeks ago, that did come up and it was a topic of conversation through our task force as one of the concerns and issues. I can't find it right this minute, but the South Carolina Chamber put out kind of a work plan recovery outline. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read it.
Yes.
One of their topics that they'll be looking into as well. So that is obviously an issue covering all of South Carolina.
Right. And with that, Justine, we'll kind of pivot to the education, social services and things, and broadband, certainly an impact there as was mentioned. But if you want to move on to some of the other questions in that area.
Sure. Thank you. So, right, we talked about the buses going out and supplying broadband. Was what other roles did the school districts play for school-aged children in supporting social needs? We talked a bit about the Wi-Fi and meals. Was there anything else? And sorry. In that vein, does anyone know what will be going forward through the summer? Will any of the meals continue? Do you know if the school districts have any plans for servicing people in the communities?
I think the meals will continue. I've read that somewhere.
Great.
So one of the things that we learned during the recovery task force meetings that both school districts do have task forces that are getting off the ground. I know 55 is working to schedule their first meeting, so I'm sure there's going to be a wide variety of topics there.
I know typically during the summer, the school district here offers lunches at several of the schools. So I would assume that they would continue the delivery via the buses.
I think one issue they run into is trying to contact people in outlying areas, and I keep stressing that, but there are people who live in different, in remote locations, and it's just hard sometimes to, know where they are and who they are, and that.
Right. And if you can't get on the internet, then you can't get the messages.
Right.
And that also connects to the access to transportation issue sometimes too, if folks don't have access to transportation to get to where the buses are providing meals. So they all work in there.
The Lakeland's YMCA also is working with the school, at least 55, from my understanding, to do a summer reading program to offer that education piece this summer. So I know that there are different initiatives around the education outside of the feeding programs also. I just don't know all the details on them.
That's a good point. We haven't had that come up yet with additional education throughout the summer to kind of keep kids ready for whatever happens in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Especially
I'd also
sorry, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to just say that I'd also add that, we rely heavily on social media to get the word out, but here locally, we have local media outlets that do a really good job. We have a local radio station, and both Lawrence and Clinton have local newspapers. And we also have an online news site. So I think we've got 4 other resources for getting the word out that I think are all supportive of the different projects and programs that are going on in the county.
We've also got, excuse me. We've also
know that. Oh, go ahead.
We got 4 school districts here too. That sometimes creates some questions of communication. I think part of Greenwood comes into Lawrence, and the Greenville district comes across the county line as well. So sometimes they do a good job. I'm not saying that, but I mean with that many, sometimes communication could be an issue. I think.
I was going to say, I know that SC Empowerment, they do the food boxes for the kids, and they also go around into the neighborhoods. So they actually take it to the neighborhoods where the kids are that would be needing the food, and they pass it out that way so that they don't have to come somewhere. They bring it to them, and that is continuing.
That's great. And I assume that with your senior community that similar meals are happening to places to pick up and also deliveries? Yes,
they also do senior boxes, and they do food giveaways other than the kid and the seniors. They actually did a food box giveaway last Friday, and they have 2 scheduled for this Friday in 2 different locations.
Have you seen any members of the community that you think have fallen through the cracks throughout the pandemic that you would need assistance with?
I think I have, but fallen through the crack. No, I'm sure they're out there. I mean, we've got a very large, unfortunately, poor community here, and I just don't know what we can do to contact them and make sure they're whole through all this. And I don't if you don't teach school in this county, or if you're not a police officer, or if you're not a EMS person or a medical person, you might not see all that's out there. And it is, I think, formidable and a little scary sometimes when we look at who we are and who we think we know and who we don't know. And that's kind of what concerns me. I'm a retiree, so I'm not in a position to do much about it, but it is a concern.
I think that there are, like, the seniors, as far as getting their food boxes. United Way did have a food box giveaway a couple of weeks ago. We gave away around 100 food boxes, but you have people that are coming through there that they know people that need the food boxes, but they have no transportation in order to get out. The seniors, especially, a lot of them are afraid to come out. So we have been, when people come and they talk about these people that actually need the boxes, we do ask them if they could possibly take them a food box, if they're willing to take them a food box. And that has helped in some situations where other people that come will provide the food boxes to people that they know.
Nice. Thank you. Dean, do we have a minute to see what Jackie has to say about college students at Presbyterian?
Yes, definitely would like that.
So most all of our students are off campus right now. We have about 12 or 13, and those are students that it was safer for them to stay on campus than to go back to their homes, or if they aren't on campus, they're considered homeless. So I think we've done a great job of meeting their needs. Bringing them back will be interesting. I think that, with about 1,025 students in this area, it does have an impact on our smaller businesses. And our numbers look good for the fall. We are pleasantly surprised at the number of students that the new freshmen that are coming in, and we have a small amount of transfers. So, we're pleasantly surprised with those numbers. We'll be down a little bit, but as far as meeting their needs to this point, we were able to provide support for those that had issues with online learning, and so I feel like we're in a good place right now.
Jackie, can I ask you specifically, did you have, getting back to the broadband issue, did you have some students who had challenges related to that once you went to e-learning?
We did have some, yes.
And what did you all do to overcome that?
Well, we provided funding. Some of it was, some of the changes that some of the students were able to go other places outside of their home to receive access. Others, I believe I don't know exactly what everyone did.
But they made accommodations, some financial and some in other ways to account for that, basically.
Correct.
Okay, good, very, very helpful. I'm gonna turn it over to Sharon and let you wrap up with a couple final questions. Sharon, you gotta unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, we're close to the top of the hour, so I just want to ask a couple of follow-up questions. Were there, Amanda and others, you've talked about partnerships and collaborations. Are there other types of partnerships that you wish existed, and if they were developed now, would be helpful? Anyone?
That's a tough question. Just because we're in a place right now, like I said, discovery, which I wish we would have started this a little sooner. But kind of that discovery phase where we're just trying to figure out what the needs are in the community and where there may be some gaps. And so there may be partnerships that I'm not sure we needed at this point.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how to answer that.
Okay. Yeah.
It would be
Understood.
beneficial, and I don't know how we would do this, but I think it would be beneficial if everyone was on the same page about like requirements. So we have students coming back. Do we, if they are required to wear masks on campus, are they required to wear masks in public? Again, I don't know what the legal constraints are of that, but it seems like consistency would be pretty important for the safety of students, for the safety of our community members. Just as an example, I think, I go into the BILO here, and I would say that there's less than 25% of our community that's wearing masks. And again, I don't know if that obviously can't be required, but I think consistency in that area would be pretty important. Also, I think that, one of the things our task force has just started a few weeks ago, but I know that one of the things that we're concerned about is supply of the supplies that we need, and are we going to be able to get them? Are we going to be able to get enough masks? Are we going to be able to get enough hand sanitizer? So I think just being able to partner with others to know that those needs are being met all across the county is pretty important too.
Okay.
That's a really good point. Real quick, Sharon O'Brien, did you have a comment earlier? I think we missed you. Did you want to say something earlier?
Well, I was going to speak about the broadband in the rural areas. I work for the co-op in Lawrence, and I will say that I feel like we pretty much have our area covered. We didn't charge any disconnect fees. We didn't cut anybody off during this, and I will say that people took advantage of that. We did reinstalls on people that had owed us money, but yet we didn't want any child to go without internet so that they could get their homework done. We've reached out to the schools to see what we could do to help them, every one of them. And I do know that we have continued to keep our internet service up to the homes. We've run a repair service crew. We've done everything but go into the homes, but we will begin that on June 1st with, of course, all the proper PPE. But that's just what I was going to say. Now, we also service in town as well, but in the areas we serve, Enoree, Gray Court, Waterloo, West End, Hickory Tavern, and the rural areas of Lawrence County. And this past month, we did 132 service repairs, 122 new cable drops, which means we got service to somebody's house, 61 new internet installations, and we have 94 service orders pending. But we've done everything we could to ensure that our county had broadband.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing on that.
Okay.
Sharon, back to you.
One last question. Is there anything, are there initiatives that you've had going on prior to COVID that you've kind of had to put on the back burner, but you'd like to get going again once things sort of loosen up?
Specifically in that case, the referendum that y'all were working on, where does that stand? Anybody want to share, Amanda or Jeff or John?
It's still planned. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, Ernie.
It's still planned, I think, for the November general election. Amanda's done a great job working with our 6-member, what they call it, commission that's working on the applications, and they've, I think they're in the decision-making mode now as they rank them, to be listed on the agenda. So I think we plan to proceed with it. I know some other counties, I think Anderson and Pickens have decided not to have it right now, but our needs are so great. I think we plan to go ahead with it, and I commend the county for doing that.
Yes.
Amanda,
Sorry.
no, I was just going to ask if you wanted to add.
Yes, just that the meetings have continued. They have been actually meeting. I've become the IT person basically, so I'm in the background helping where I can, just for informational purposes. But the Walter Hughes, who is the commission chair, has been coming here, and then we have been doing Zoom meetings out of here. They have been doing them pretty much weekly, or sometimes twice a week. So all the presentations have been presented to the commission, and they're definitely moving right along, planning to have everything on the ballot in November.
Okay.
Well, I know we're right on time, but is there anyone, especially those who have not had a chance to share, that would like to give us a comment on something that you see moving forward as an issue that might be an opportunity for collaboration with other communities, or within the county or beyond? Debbie?
Yes, I'm with the Lawrence County Museum, and we were really on a major role in everything, just a good push with everything that we had going, and everything is just stopped. And I mean, including one of our major fundraisers, and everything we do involves bringing a lot of people in. And so we're at a, just at a place right now where we don't know what to do, or how to proceed with what we need to do. And I just wondered if y'all have spoken with other nonprofits who are in this, from fundraising to programming to all that. We're working through it, and we're still working on, our renovation is still ongoing as that works out. But and right now we don't have leaks in our roof because we finished the roof, and that's a wonderful thing. But I just wanted to ask anybody how they're going with that.
Well, I would say, I've been on a lot of calls with other nonprofits across the region and the state, and there are a lot of challenges similar to what you're describing. I do know some of the museums and art galleries and things are looking to open in early to mid-June. There also is a guide. We actually, on our call this afternoon, have GP McClear, who is with the Arts Alliance, to talk about reopening of arts and cultural facilities. So there are a number of resources available there, and we can connect you. Sharon, maybe you can share the resource there, and Debbie, we can reach out and connect with you separately. Ashley, did you have a comment?
I was just going to go ahead and share what Thornwell's doing. So I'm the grants manager at Thornwell. It's a nonprofit in Clinton, and just going to share kind of what we're doing. We're serving meals it's about 7,000 meals a month, and that's open to everyone. They just have to show up, kids in the car, just to ensure that we're serving to kids who need it. And we're still taking in foster kids. We're licensing foster families. Our child development center, it's closed right now, but we are still having our teachers reach out to those families, and they're posting videos every day of reading some books to the kids, and they had their 4K graduation just recently. So we're trying our best just to stay in touch with those families who are struggling right now. So, but that's kind of, I just want to touch on that.
Great, thank you. Jeff Field, anything from the utility standpoint that you wanted to share?
No, Dean, we're slowly getting back to normal. A lot of what Sharon touched on, I think, is common with utilities. We're trying to continue to provide the service we do, dealing with just PPE issues and customer service issues, but we've managed well, I believe. I'm on several calls around the state, and you know, it's kind of all over the board, but I feel like we've done a good job here. All the utilities have done a good job here in Lawrence County.
Good. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. And as I said, what we will do is we will compile this information both in terms of what was said today, and then as we have the other calls, what there are opportunities for collaboration across the region. If you think of anything after the call or anything where we can be helpful, please reach out to me or to Sharon or Justine or Aaron. We're happy to support you in any way we can. Amanda and Jeff and Justin are all on my board of directors with 10 at the top. So if you want to reach out to any of the three of them, they are kind of the local contacts here in Lawrence County as well. So again, thank you all for sharing some time and ideas and your thoughts today. And please continue to be engaged in any way we can be supportive. We certainly want to do so moving forward. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with you all as we move forward. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean, and your whole team. Y'all are great. We appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Dean.
Bye.